Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a little while, and that is the anxiety or stress related to being a powerlifting coach or just a coach in general. I have been apprehensive to make this video because, obviously I'm an active coach right now and I've got a number of clients, so I don't want any of them to think that this is about them or make them feel guilty in any way. But it is something that I've been wanting to talk about because I know it'll add a lot of value or bring a lot of value to coaches and even athletes out there that might be paying a coach. So this kind of come about because a few weeks ago I was actually having lunch with a friend of mine who I went to high school with, and after they finished high school they wanted to do an engineering degree and they're now an engineer. So they are employed, they work long hours, 55 hours a week. Got a stable income, and we're catching up, and one thing that he said to me was, it must be good being self-employed, being your own boss. You can do whatever you want. And obviously, just reactively I was like, yeah, it's pretty good, lots of flexibility, blah blah. We just kept talking, but it kind of got me thinking over the next couple of days about what he said, and I kind of wish I changed my response, because he said to me, it must be good being your own boss. And I think that's what I wanted to bring up today, because although I am self-employed, technically, I don't really have one boss. I've got like 80 bosses. And every single one of my clients, I guess, is my boss. So your boss is the person who pays you or who organizes your pay, and they're the person who you work for. You work for them. You put in your hours, you do what's required of you, you answer their questions, you answer to them, they make demands, they expect a certain level of service or effort, and in return, you get paid. And it's exactly like that if you're a coach or self-employed in any other field, really. Your clients are your bosses. So you've got to provide a certain level of service, you've got to provide a certain level of effort, of result to your clients in order to get paid. So, when you add up all the people that I coach at the gym, as well as online, as well as about half a dozen people that I look after pro bono, I've got 80 bosses, right? 80 people who I've got to answer to, who I've got to make feel like they're getting an adequate service, that they're engaging, and all these types of things. And along with that role is a lot of stress, right? It's quite stressful, it's quite difficult. I'm not for a second suggesting that coaching or being a coach is any more stressful than many other jobs out there. Obviously, I've got friends that work in corporate positions, or I've got friends that work in low income positions that suffer from stress of their work, because no matter what work you're doing, obviously there's a certain level of effort or result that's expected of you. So everyone's going to experience stress, and again, I'm not looking for sympathy or anything like that, but I just want to bring up this idea and make lifters out there who have a coach realize that their coach is just a person who suffers the same anxiety that you do when you're at your workplace. And for any coaches out there, realize that this is a common issue that, or maybe not an issue, but a common theme that all coaches will experience. You see, just like at any other workplace, you would probably hold yourself to a certain level of professionality, a certain level of expectation, right? You want to do your job well, and that's the same is true for a powerlifting coach. You want to do your job well. You want to look after your clients. You want your clients to see results. You want your clients to feel like things are moving forward, that their money that they're putting into you, investing in you, is worthwhile, that things are going forward. But the fact of the matter is, in training, that's not always the case. Sometimes training doesn't go well. Sometimes things aren't progressing. Sometimes you can have a paying client with you for over a year for very little return. And this is, I think, one of the misconceptions that some lifters have when they hire a coach. When you buy things, you exchange money for a product. So for example, you buy a bottle of milk, you give someone some money, and in return, you receive some milk. Pretty straightforward. However, when it comes to something that's service-based in powerlifting, you're not paying for a result or a product. And this is the issue. Some lifters feel like, sorry for that wind, if the audio is a bit funny, but some lifters feel like you exchange money for a result. I give you X amount of dollars and I want Y kilos on my squat. That's not what you're paying for. When you hire a coach, what you're paying for is someone to essentially guide you, look after you, help you, right? Not the end result. And this is something that I found really hard to deal with when I was first coaching, was because I knew that some lifters had this in their head, and I had it in my head, right? That someone's paying and I need to give them a result in exchange for their money. And if someone wasn't achieving goals, that's really loud. If someone wasn't really moving forward, I would almost feel guilty for taking someone's money. But what I've learned over the years is that as a coach, what your clients are paying for is not only the improvements in their lifts, but also the service that comes with you. So sometimes if things aren't going well with a client, which is inevitable, it sucks, all I guess I can do from a coaching point of view is ensure that I'm providing a level of service that is acceptable and appropriate. You got to show that you care, and I do care. I genuinely do care. And when lifters aren't progressing, it kills me, man. Like, it burns. I've lost, countless hours of sleep, brainstorming, thinking, like banging my head on a wall, like, what am I doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? Why aren't things moving in the direction that I want them to move? What could we possibly change? It's frustrating, right? When you feel like you're doing the right things, programming seems pretty straightforward, like, yeah, pretty progressive, no issues there, they're not injured, their work stress isn't too much. Like, you just sometimes as a coach, you get so frustrated and stressed, and you're like, what are we doing wrong? Why aren't things going forward? And to lifters out there, understand that your coach is probably just as stressed about your lack of progress as you are, because coaches ride the wave of emotion that lifters go through. And when you coach, like if you're lucky enough to coach like 70, 80 lifters like I do, you're riding that emotion 80 times over all week. You get a message, hey, squats today were awful, and your heart breaks, damn it, why? And then the next 15 minutes later, someone else messages you, hey, just hit a bench PB, and you're like, hallelujah. It's a ride of emotion, and coaches out there, I'm sure will relate, ride that wave of emotion throughout the whole process, times 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 lifters that you coach. It is stressful. So going back to what I said before about, what can you do when lifts aren't going, when your clients aren't going well? Well, firstly is accept it, right? Accept the fact that when you've got a number of clients, when you've got even over only 20 clients, the fact remains that if 10% are going through stagnant phases, that's at least 2 clients. But it's not going to be 10%, it's going to be more than 10%, especially if the group that you're dealing with are more intermediary to advanced. The better the lifter, obviously, the more likely they will be going through a plateau phase or a period of stagnancy. So firstly, you need to accept it. You need to understand that that's going to be the case, and you can't let that pressure get to you as a coach. Secondly, you need to instill that idea in the lifters' minds themselves. Like, lifters need to have realistic expectations, which they don't always do, because again, they're paying good money and they want to know that the money that they're investing is worthwhile. But you do need to, convey a sense of realistic expectation to your lifter. They need to know that what they're paying for isn't magic. What they're paying for is guidance and is progress in some degree, whether it's kilos on the bar, or if it's technique, or if it's whatever. You've just got to be providing that service, and they need to understand what they're getting themselves into. And as a coach, when you are going through these periods when lifters aren't progressing well, like I said earlier, the best thing you can do is ensure you continue to provide a service, because that's what the service-based industry is about. It's about providing a service. You got a lifter that's not progressing well, you can't just ignore them. You can't turn your back on them, obviously. But you'd be surprised how many coaches kind of, shy away from accepting the failures of their lifters. You've got to be there for them, because that's the most emotionally fragile period for any athlete, is when things aren't going well. 3-6 months of plateaus, no real progress on any of the main lifts. And as a coach, you've got to be there. So you've got to show that you care, ask questions, bounce off ideas off them. Hey, what do you reckon? What do you think we're not doing well? What could we change? Do you have any ideas? Because even an experienced coach should really be bouncing ideas off their clients, figuring out what they want to do, because lifters need to be, at least in my opinion anyway, especially if you've got intermediate to advanced lifters, their opinions and suggestions about training are valid, and you do want to take those things on board. So I guess that kind of what I want to talk about today is about the stress and anxiety of being a coach. It is stressful, but anyone who is a coach, or most people who are coaches, probably do it because they do love it. I do enjoy it. I love seeing people move forward towards their goals, get stronger, enjoy the thrill that is competing in powerlifting, enjoy the thrill that is training. But along with it comes down phases. And as a coach, you just got to accept the fact that that's going to happen. As a lifter, you have to understand, again, that's going to happen. And I am not suggesting for a minute to accept mediocrity. I'm not suggesting for a minute to accept complacency, because as a coach, like I said, when things aren't going well, this is your work, right? Like as a coach, my lifter's progress is my job. So when a lifter is not going well, it is, like I said, stressful, and you do spend a lot of time thinking about it. And that's what I'm suggesting and encouraging. I'm encouraging you as a coach to really work hard, to really brainstorm hard, think hard about what you're doing, do the best you can, obviously. You know, programming and coaching is sometimes a bit of a puzzle. So you do have to kind of figure out the puzzle and find a solution. Why aren't things going forward and what can we change? But at the end of the day, you do have to accept that there will be things out of your control, and you know, it's just not always sunshine and rainbows. So if you've experienced this before, or you understand where I'm coming from, or you've got any questions, leave those in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts or experiences about, you know, if you're a coach, the stress or anxiety you felt as a coach, or if you're a lifter, the pressure you've put on a coach. You know, if you've barraged a coach, you know, why aren't things going well? Like, what are we doing wrong? Blah blah blah. Yeah, I'd just love to get this discussion open, and you know, leave a comment in the section below. Thanks for watching.